Allo, it's Nia. Welcome to AI Creator World Podcast, the place where creators learn how to grow faster, build smarter, and turn artificial intelligence into real opportunity. Here, we explore powerful AI tools, content strategies, personal branding systems, and new ways to create income in the digital era. If you are building something online, you are in the right place. Let's begin.
Usually when we scroll past a massively viral post from an influencer, there's this expectation of spontaneous magic.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Like catching lightning in a bottle.
Right. You see a million likes, thousands of comments, and you just think, wow, they really caught the cultural wave today.
It feels purely organic, like a happy accident where the right piece of art just met the right audience at exactly the right second.
Yeah, exactly. But then you step into the world of top-tier AI influencers, and suddenly that illusion of, spontaneous art is completely shattered.
Completely.
We're looking at a landscape that is, honestly, it's a highly calibrated factory.
It is the absolute definition of a ruthless, systematic business machine. I mean, the creators running these digital avatars aren't just crossing their fingers and hoping for virality.
No, not at all.
They are executing highly complex, mathematically sound operations.
And welcome to today's deep dive. Our mission today is to completely deconstruct that machine. We are unpacking a fascinating guide from AI Creator World titled AI Influencer Campaign Performance Strategy.
And it's a dense one.
It really is. And I want to be clear right up front with you, the listener. This isn't a tutorial on how to render cool, futuristic digital avatars.
Right. The visual rendering is almost beside the point here.
Exactly.
This text focuses entirely on a rigorous data architecture. It's about how these creators, how they structure the back end of their business.
The mission of this deep dive is to explore how the absolute best AI influencers use this intense, almost clinical data strategy to turn what looks like creative content into predictable, compounding revenue.
Yeah, it's about turning a single sponsorship into a long-term business empire.
Which is huge.
It is, and achieving that requires a massive shift in mindset. What's fascinating here is that most human creators, and even a lot of novice AI creators, they treat analytics as a reactive afterthought.
Like checking the score after the game is over.
Exactly. The typical pattern is to post the content, wait a few days, open the app, and check the view count. It's totally passive.
Yeah.
But the top-tier AI influencers use what this source calls a compounding loop.
A compounding loop. Okay.
Yeah, they treat data as the foundational operational engine. It's the exact mechanism they use to justify higher brand rates, lock in long-term retainers, and really build unshakable trust with corporate stakeholders.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because the strategy actually begins before a single piece of content is even conceptualized, right?
Oh, way before.
We're talking about the pre-game blueprint. Before a campaign launches, before a single post goes live, the smartest creators are already designing exactly how they're going to prove to the brand that they won the negotiation.
Designing how to prove you won is the core philosophy here.
I love that phrasing.
It's so good. The source outlines this through something called the measurability test for campaign objectives.
Love.
It is entirely about setting ironclad expectations so that success isn't, subjective.
Because if a brand manager comes to you and says, our goal for this campaign is to increase brand awareness.
Right, which they say all the time.
They say it all the time. And it sounds lovely in a boardroom, but according to this guide, accepting that as your objective is a complete failure.
It fails the measurability test because awareness is ambiguous. I mean, imagine you finish a 30-day campaign and sit down with the brand.
Yeah.
You feel like the awareness is higher. They feel like it didn't move the needle. How do you prove it?
You can't.
You can't. And feelings do not justify budget renewals. The guy explains that a successful objective must act as a binding performance contract.
So instead of a vague goal like increase brand awareness, the measurable objective becomes something much more specific.
Right. It because achieve a minimum of 45,000 reach across platforms with an engagement rate above the 90-day average.
That leaves absolutely zero room for debate at the end of the month.
None.
It reminds me of pitching a massive architectural project. You wouldn't just start nailing 2x4s together and promise the client a good vibe house.
Definitely not.
You draw up blueprints, you agree on the exact square footage, and have the city approve the permits before you even pour the foundation. You wouldn't start playing a competitive sport with a brand without agreeing on how points are scored first.
That is exactly it. And to know what those architectural dimensions even are, you have to establish your baseline analytics before the campaign ever starts.
Right, those baselines.
The guide insists on pulling 90-day baseline benchmarks for every critical metric: reach, engagement, saves, and story completion rates.
Why the specific 90-day window, though?
Well, a 90-day window smooths out algorithmic fluctuations and seasonal spikes. It gives a true picture of what average looks like for your account right now.
That makes sense.
Because without that baseline, a 4.2% engagement rate on a sponsored post is just a floating number.
Is it good? Is it bad?
Exactly. The brand doesn't know. But if you have documented that your 90-day baseline is a 3% engagement rate, then that 4.2% is a mathematically proven win.
Wow.
It completely neutralizes any post-campaign disputes about what good actually looks like.
And they compile all of this into a one-page stakeholder alignment document. It lists the primary objectives, those 90-day baselines, and the reporting timelines.
A single page, yeah.
But I have to push back a little here.
Go for it.
Doesn't handing a brand manager a rigid, hyper-specific corporate document kind of ruin the magic? The whole appeal of an influencer is their spontaneous, authentic connection with the audience. Doesn't laying out all these rigid, hyper-specific metrics kill the creative vibe?
It's a fair question, but we have to separate the audience's experience from the brand manager's experience.
Okay, how so?
The audience still gets the magic and the spontaneity. They see the cool video, but the brand manager, they are terrified.
Terrified of what?
They live in constant fear that their influencer marketing budgets are being thrown into a black hole with zero return on investment.
Oh, sure. That makes sense.
So by presenting them with a rigid data-backed alignment document, you aren't killing the vibe. You are speaking their language. You are shifting the relationship from a one-off vendor transaction to a stable, long-term business partnership. It's all about risk reduction.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. Because once that baseline is set and the content finally drops, the strategy totally shifts.
It does.
We move from the blueprint phase into live action tracking. The campaign is mid-flight.
The transition from planning to actual execution is where this operational rigor really shines. A baseline is just a static measuring stick.
Right.
It doesn't help you if the campaign is actively bombing on day 2.
Which is why the source goes incredibly deep into UPM tracking structures.
Oh, yes.
For anyone listening who isn't living in digital marketing dashboards every day, UTMs are those long, complicated strings of text you see at the end of a web link. And these top AI influencers are using them across multi-platform funnels to track every single click.
They build a 4-part tracking structure before every single campaign, generating unique links for every piece of content.
So they aren't just using one generic link in bio for everything.
No, never. The parameters they use are source, which identifies the platform like Instagram or TikTok, medium, which is the specific format like a reel, a story, or a bio link. Campaign, which is the deal identifier like brand Q3 launch. And finally, content, which is the specific post ID or creative angle.
So if a campaign has 5 different posts across 2 platforms, they have specific links for the Instagram story on Tuesday and a totally different link for the TikTok video on Thursday.
They have to, because without that granularity, any sales or web traffic generated during the week can't be definitively linked to the creator's specific actions.
Because the brand might look at a sales spike and just assume it came from their own internal Facebook ads.
Exactly. UTM tracking removes the guesswork. It proves exactly which piece of your content drove the buyer to the checkout page.
And having that live data flowing in allows for mid-campaign dynamic adjustments.
Yes, the dynamic adjustments are key.
The guide gives this amazing scenario. Say you are running a 7-day campaign. If a reel you post on day 2 gets 40% above average engagement, you don't just sit back and watch the views roll in.
You act on it immediately.
Right. You boost that specific post with ad spend, or you analyze the visual hook from that video and quickly use it to reshoot day 5's content.
You are treating the campaign like a living organism, reacting to live data instead of stubbornly sticking to a script.
It reminds me of a veteran stand-up comedian reading the room.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
Yeah, like if a comedian tells a joke and the audience unexpectedly goes crazy for a specific premise, they don't just ignore it and move on to the next written joke. They riff on it.
Right, they lean into what's working.
Exactly. They alter their punchlines mid-set based on that live reaction to maximize the laughs, rather than stubbornly sticking to a script that isn't landing.
That is a brilliant comparison. And this brings in the concept of optimization sprints, which the source details at length.
Right, the sprints.
These are structured A/B testing rules applied while the campaign is actively running. But there is a strict scientific method to it. You must isolate your variables.
Meaning you can't test everything at once.
Right. You can only test one thing at a time. Maybe you test the placement of the call to action button, or whether the narrative framing is educational versus purely aspirational.
Because if you change the lighting, the background music, the caption, and the posting time all at once and the video goes viral, you have absolutely no idea which of those 4 changes actually caused the spike.
You're left guessing, which totally defeats the purpose of the test. And the guide establishes a hard rule for these sprints. You need a minimum sample size of 5,000 reach before drawing any conclusions.
Wow, 5,000. So if you test a new call to action and it gets 400 views,
The data is statistically insignificant. Anything less than 5,000 is just algorithmic noise.
which means you need a fairly robust, active audience to even run these optimization sprints effectively.
This raises an important question about what we are actually measuring during these sprints.
Okay, what do you mean?
The guide warns heavily against tracking vanity metrics.
Like follower counts or total likes?
Exactly. Vanity metrics are too easily influenced by random algorithmic distribution or visual clickbait. Instead, the top AI influencers are laser-focused on revenue-linked indicators.
Revenue-linked indicators, what are those exactly?
Save rates, for example, that shows high purchase intent because a user is bookmarking the product for later. Click-through rates show direct action.
Right.
And community sentiment, the actual tone of the comments, shows brand receptivity. These are the metrics that prove commercial intent, not just passing attention.
So the campaign window eventually closes. The adrenaline of the live sprint is over.
Sadly, yes.
But according to the source, the most crucial phase has just begun. We're moving into the post-game autopsy. This is where you turn all that raw data into a weapon for your next negotiation.
The projected versus actual comparison is the moment of truth. You sit down with the brand and show them the baseline you both agreed on in the blueprint phase versus what the campaign actually delivered.
And if you ran those mid-flight optimization sprints correctly, you're hopefully showing positive variance.
Yes. The source notes that hitting, say, plus 29% reach or a plus 47% save rate beyond the initial projection isn't just a pat on the back.
What is it then?
It is the ultimate leverage for rate increases. It proves mathematically that the brand's investment produced significantly more value than the contract guaranteed.
But proving that value gets complicated when you think about the buyer's journey. The guide talks about using multi-touch attribution models.
Right.
Can you break this down for us? Because when you hear multi-touch attribution, it sounds like something only a data scientist can understand.
It can get incredibly complex, but the guide offers a very clean, simplified 3-step model for creators to use. It assigns percentage credit to different pieces of content in the sales funnel, acknowledging that one post rarely does all the work.
Right.
It operates on a 30-40-30 split. First touch gets 30% of the credit. That's the viral top-of-funnel content that generated the initial brand discovery. Mid-touch gets 40% of the credit. That's the content that drove deep consideration, like a highly detailed educational post answering common questions.
And then the last touch.
Last touch gets 30%. That's the final reminder post with the direct link that drove the actual conversion.
I love this concept. Think of it like a heist movie.
A heist movie, okay.
Yeah, if we only credit the last touch, we're giving all the glory and the money to the guy who simply opened the vault door at the end. We are completely ignoring the hacker who disabled the alarm systems and the driver who successfully got them inside the building. Multi-touch attribution pays the whole crew.
I love that analogy. It's so true. Recognizing the value of that entire crew allows the creator to build incredibly high-value case studies. The source outlines a strict 5-component structure for these case studies.
What are the 5 components?
Context, approach, results, commercial impact, and interpretation.
Let's walk through that because the guide practically screams that the commercial impact and interpretation sections are where creators actually make their money. Imagine you were pitching a futuristic skincare brand. You don't just hand them a screenshot of your likes. You build this 5-part document.
So for the context, you establish the baseline. The brand needed to launch a new serum to Gen Z buyers. The approach details the mid-flight sprints. We A/B tested educational deep dives versus fast-paced lifestyle edits.
And then the results.
The results give the high-level numbers, but the commercial impact is where you get granular. The source gives a brilliant example of how to write this. Instead of saying, we got a lot of clicks, you write,
Oh, wait, I have it right here. It says, the campaign drove 2,800 UTM-attributed website visits with a session duration 40% above the brand's organic baseline.
yes. A brand manager can take that exact sentence, put it in their own internal slide deck, and show their boss exactly why they spent the budget on you.
It proves business value, not just content performance.
Exactly. And then you follow that up with the interpretation phase, which uses a very specific what-why action framework.
How does that framework actually play out in a report?
Well, the what is the data observation. For instance, noticing that product demonstration videos received 2.3 times higher swipe-up rates than standard lifestyle imagery.
Okay, and the why?
The why is the psychological mechanism behind it. Demonstrations reduce purchase uncertainty for the buyer by showing exactly how the serum applies to the skin.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
So what's the action?
The action is how you apply this to the next campaign, proposing a formal agreement to lead with product demonstrations in all future activations for this brand.
That is so smart. It shows the brand you aren't just reading a spreadsheet, you are actively interpreting human psychology and applying it to their business strategy.
You are acting as a strategic consultant, not just a digital billboard.
Which brings us to the final major shift in this strategy. We've seen how to win a single campaign, but how does this data feed the entire machine?
Right, the macro level.
We're moving from micro-campaign tactics to macro business strategy. The source calls this the revenue ecosystem.
Because data from a brand campaign shouldn't live in a silo. The intelligence you gather about what formats, hooks, and narratives work best can be directly applied to everything else the AI influencer does to make money.
So the insights cross-pollinate.
Absolutely. The source mentions using brand campaign data to inform your own digital product design, affiliate offers, and community monetization.
So if a specific type of hyper-edited educational reel gets insane engagement during a sponsorship, you don't just use that knowledge for brands.
No, you use that exact same visual format when you launch your own paid digital course.
And a huge part of making that ecosystem valuable comes down to retention metrics. The guide makes a massive point about audience retention, and it's something I don't think a lot of people in the influencer space talk about enough.
It is a vital metric. The source contrasts two hypothetical creators. Both have the exact same follower count, say 500,000 followers.
Right.
But creator A has a 65% 6-month audience retention rate.
Meaning their followers stick around, watch the stories daily, and stay engaged over half a year.
Right. Now, creator B has a 30% retention rate. They might get viral hits, but they churn through followers constantly. People follow, get bored, and unfollow.
If I'm a brand manager looking to build long-term product awareness, I'm terrified of creator B.
A 65% retention rate acts as a massive risk reducer for brands. It means that the audience is building progressive trust.
They are seeing the creator's content repeatedly over months, which leads to progressive purchase consideration.
Yes. A high-churn audience just cannot produce that kind of deep brand loyalty.
It's the difference between setting up a microphone in a crowded transit station where everyone is rushing by and might glance at you for 2 seconds, versus speaking to a dedicated theater audience who actually bought tickets, sat down, and wants to hear what you have to say.
The brands that understand the value of that theater audience are pushing towards some wild future trends mentioned at the end of the text.
While how?
The guide talks about predictive analytics models that forecast campaign performance before activation even happens. It talks about automation tools that streamline all this UTM reporting. And most intensely, it discusses the direct integration of the creator's analytics into the enterprise marketing stack of the corporation itself through APIs.
Wait, if they are literally plugging their back-end data directly into a Fortune 500 company's marketing stack, and relying on heavy automation and predictive models to guarantee views before they even post. Where's the influence in that?
It sounds paradoxical, I know.
Aren't they just becoming a programmatic ad network with a pretty face? Do they lose their unique identity as a creator entirely and just become highly advanced digital billboards?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it might seem like they are sacrificing their identity. But the source argues the exact opposite. This integration actually builds a massive competitive positioning moat.
A moat against other creators.
Exactly. When verified, integrated outcomes equal unshakable authority.
Because they're plugged straight into the machine.
Right. When an AI influencer is wired into a brand's sales data and consistently proving month after month that they drive actual revenue, they become indispensable to that corporation.
Because new creators, or creators who still rely purely on, like, vibes and vanity metrics, simply cannot quickly replicate that level of trust and operational sophistication.
Yes. The data integration doesn't erase their identity, it elevates them from a replaceable influencer to an essential business partner.
So what does this all mean? If you are listening to this, whether you are actively building an AI influencer, running a small e-commerce business, or just trying to pitch a new project at your day job, the core lesson here transcends social media algorithms.
It really does.
The lesson is clear. You have to measure systematically from day one. You have to adapt dynamically based on live feedback, isolating your variables so you actually know what works.
And above all, you have to let verified data do your negotiating for you.
Yes. When you have the math to back up your narrative, you don't have to argue about your worth. The numbers make the argument.
That leads to a rather profound thought to walk away with.
Let's hear it.
The text mentions the rapid approach of predictive analytics models, right? Using historical data on visual triggers, hooks, and retention to forecast the exact performance of a campaign before it even launches.
Predicting the conversion rate before the AI avatar's video is even fully rendered.
Right. So if the future of this industry is an AI perfectly predicting the exact performance of a campaign before it even launches, will brands eventually only buy guaranteed pre-calculated outcomes?
Oh, wow.
And if so, does the concept of unpredictable, spontaneous viral art on the internet cease to exist entirely in the commercial space?
Wow. If the factory completely solves the formula, does the lightning in a bottle just become a manufactured spark? That's a fascinating place to leave it. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive.
Thanks for having me.
Keep questioning the data around you, keep looking for the mechanisms behind the magic, and we will catch you next time.
Thank you for listening to AI Creator World Podcast. If you found this episode valuable, make sure to follow the podcast, subscribe on YouTube, and share this episode with another creator who is building their future online. For deeper guides, AI tools, and step-by-step growth strategies, visit our website at aicreatorworld.net. And remember, in the age of artificial intelligence, creators who learn faster will lead the future. See you in the next episode. Bye!